How are you guys? Good, it's good. It's good to see some of you. No, it's good to see all of you. I'm curious, how many of you would like to make a lot bigger impact in the world? Yeah. How many of you want to make a lot more money doing that? Okay, good. Well, we're going to talk about some things. My name is Brandon Barber. I've spent the last 20 plus years working with over 1 million people, helping them really understand their mindset and how mindset impacts their lives, impacts their business, impacts everything about them. And so I've had the privilege of working with, oh my gosh, the best people on the planet that work around mindset, not only to help other people, but to help myself because of all of my issues. Like, I have a lot of issues. How many of you know you have issues? Like, that's the first step, and I have a ton of issues. I'll share them with you if you want, or my wife will share them with you. But you know, in my early 20s, I struggled so severely with anxiety that I had a panic attack a day for 3 years until I became agoraphobic. I wouldn't leave my house. I had to use mindset to overcome that. We've probably pivoted in our business, I don't know, 15 different times. And we just had to pivot again in 2020. How many of you had to pivot in your business? Curious. Yeah, we've had to pivot. We've had to use mindset for that. I got cancer 3 years ago. And when I got that phone call, I had to make a massive pivot. And I had to use mindset for that. So what if I shared with you guys today the tools that I've seen the greatest humans on the planet use, the most successful, the happiest, the wealthiest, that what they've done and what they've used to really go to that next level, to create that confident mindset and the supportive habits to really shift their lives dramatically. How many of you are up for that? Yeah? So get ready to drink from a fire hose because I'm about ready to laser it out there. We're going to give you a ton of stuff in a very short time. And so it's, what was that? Let's do it. All right, somebody's ready for the fire hose. Get ready to take notes. But here's the thing. I have an hour. At least I think I have an hour, unless it changed. Hopefully, or did I have 3 hours? Shelly? No, I only have an hour. So I have an hour, and we know we're not going to cover everything in an hour, but here's the good news. We have more for you. So beyond today, there's a process or a program, a 5-day program that we're going to share with you that'll go into much deeper depth. And we're going to do it like you guys, it'll be a no-brainer to take it on so we can go beyond what we do today. Is that fair? You mind? You okay with that? All right. So let's dig in. The first thing that I know absolutely successful, and I mean, when I say successful, it's like happy, joyful, wealthy people practice is they practice really understanding how to direct their own minds. Because here's what we know. The mind has one function above all else. And guess what, guys? It's not to make you happy. And it's not to make you successful. Anybody know what your number one function of your brain is? It's to keep you alive. It's to survive. That's it. So what happens is brain fights sometimes when you want to be successful. It literally fights against it. So we have this subconscious programming that sometimes impacts us and sabotages us, right? How many of you know this? You have self-sabotage. Like we all do. But it's brain's desire to survive when we want to do something more. So one of the things I see people do, they direct their brains. But that's tough to do, right? How many of you have ever negotiated with your brain? Right? You know what I'm talking about. I remember a few years ago, I did this program with a guy called Wim Hof. Does anybody know who Wim Hof is? There's like one person in here. If you're from Florida, it's probably not something you want to practice. Wim Hof is called the Iceman. And he's incorporated, or his whole process is how you incorporate cold and breathing and how that literally changes your world. So I get on the Wim Hof program, and part of the Wim Hof program is you have to take a 30-second cold shower for a week. And not just lukewarm, like a luke cold, it's like freezing cold. And I already heard somebody say no. That's your brain, right? Your brain's like, nope. And then you gotta take a minute cold shower, and then it's a 2 minute, then 5 minutes, then you're taking ice baths. So I get into the Wim Hof program with full intentions, the best intentions in the world to do this program. And I just paid good money for it too. So I get into this program, and I can already hear my brain negotiating. Like, I'm getting ready to get in the shower, and my brain's like, yeah, I don't think so. And I'm like, no, we gotta do this. And it's like, well, why don't we take a hot shower, and then we'll turn it to cold. And I'm like, that's a good idea, all right. So I turn the hot water on, I step into the shower, and then I shut all the hot water off, and I step aside. And brain's like, we're not doing this. And I go, this is the Wim Hof program. We got to do this thing. Like it's going to make us so much better. And we do these things. We learn and we grow and we become stronger and we help other people. We got to do this. And brain's like, yeah, how about a leg? So I put a leg in. Brain's like, and an arm. I'll do an arm too, right? So I put a leg and an arm in, and I'm like, what are we doing? We got to do this Wim Hof program. Like, this is the program that's going to help us grow and make this transition. And I spent this money. We got to do this thing. And brain's like, I got an idea. Why don't we start this in July? Because it was December in Salt Lake City, Utah, right? And I'm like, brain, come on. This is negotiation, right? How many of you know this? You negotiate with your brain. And you're like, I want to be successful. I want to be happy. I want to do these things. And then brain negotiates for survival. So I know this. A mind left undirected will always create some sort of suffering. Because brain wants to survive. It doesn't want to make you successful or happy. That's not its goal. That's not its function. We have to direct it. And you go, okay, I get that. I understand that concept. So how do we fix it? Well, there's some other things that we know brain likes to do, and it likes to keep us safe. Not just survival, but safety for us is critical. So brain likes to make us safe. But the problem with safety is that we don't get out of our comfort zone. How many of you know without a doubt, like you know this, you've heard, I got to get out of my comfort zone. This is something I got to do. But then brain goes, we're not getting out of our comfort zone. We're not doing it. Like, how many of you want to take a cold shower? You're like, I'm in. I'm taking a freezing cold shower. There's like one person out there, right? Because that's, if you want to find brain negotiating with you, just try to take a cold shower, right? Although it's a lot easier right now. And if you run around Miami right now for a couple of hours, you might want to take a cold shower. But here's what I know. Certainty never creates success. It's always uncertain. In fact, I would tell you that the level of your success in your business, maybe even your happiness, is in direct proportion to how much uncertainty your brain is willing to tolerate. Because think about it. Tell me, what are the 3 greatest experiences of your life? Like the 3 greatest. And I asked, how many of you it's giving birth? Giving birth is one of your greatest experiences. Okay? Yep. What else? Getting married. There's someone with their spouse that's here, right? Yes, I see you. You're like, I'm supposed to say that. What else? Greatest experiences. Skydiving. Coming here. Okay. Shelly heard that. Whoever said that, raise your hand. How many of you have ever, somebody said skydiving, jumped out of an airplane? Yeah? Greatest experience? Hot air balloon. Yeah, what else? How about swim with sharks? Can we do that? What are the worst experiences of your life that have been the best? Here's what we know. Every one of those experiences, whether they're good or bad, they created growth, right? But they had uncertainty. Every single one of them. None of them had, all this peace or certainty with them. So if you haven't written this down, write it down, because this is good. Your level of success, your happiness, I'm going to even say, is in direct proportion to how much uncertainty your brain is willing to tolerate. Because we know this. There's this chemical space that we get into called flow. How many of you have heard of flow? Flow is a state where like our brain is working perfectly. In other words, it's like it has the right amount of dopamine and the right amount of serotonin and the right amount of norepinephrine. It has all the chemicals flowing in the right way, and it's called flow. And in order to get into flow, there's two things that have to be happening. The first thing is you have to get out of your comfort zone. It's got to be something that challenges you. The second thing that has to happen is you must be present. So flow requires presence, and it requires you doing something that's really uncomfortable. And when you get in that place, it's like, I don't know if any of you have ever read the book, The Rise of Superman. Anybody read that book? It's about adventure athletes and these adventure athletes and what they do and why they do what they do. We call them adrenaline junkies, but come to find out, they're flow junkies. So they do these crazy things. They jump out of airplanes and they climb rock walls thousands of feet above the ground without any rope. They do these things because it brings them this state of flow. And it gets this perfect chemical cocktail where they do these superhuman things. We're capable of that too. But we got to get out of our comfort zone and we got to stay present. Now, here's what I know happens. You all have in you a subconscious program that doesn't like to stay present. What do? You do this interesting thing called multitasking, right? How many of you like to multitask? And you're out there saying right now, we're women, we can do this. And the men are going, I don't know, like, I don't try it, right? But multitasking, check these studies out. Multitasking actually kills brain cells. In fact, if you do two creative things in the moment, like maybe checking email and calling somebody or talking to somebody on the phone, your IQ drops by 10 points. Where's my teachers in the room? Teachers, is 10 points a lot? It's the equivalent of not sleeping for 36 hours, right? So multitasking pulls you out of flow. So we know this. To get in the state of flow, we've got to do things that are uncomfortable. And brain doesn't want to do things that are uncomfortable. And it needs to stay present. So we got to avoid the multitasking. Here's what else and again, this is where get ready to drink from the fire hose, because we're going to just shoot things out like crazy. The next thing I find that all successful people do is they don't judge. Now, how many of you don't judge? You liars. You are raising your hands. I see you up there. Come on. How many of you judge? Come on. How many of you have a fear of being judged? The only reason you have a fear of being judged is because you judge. Otherwise you go, I don't know what that behavior is. That's a really strange behavior. Come on. Midnight in Walmart. Tell me you're not judging. I've been there. I know. But here's what's crazy. Brain judges to survive. It has to. It's like, if I walked around like this the entire time, eventually your brain's gonna start to check out on me. Because it's judging. Because what? You don't trust me. Because your primal part of your brain thinks I might have a rock or a spear behind my back. You're like, what? They did a study. The most viewed TED Talks. You guys know what TED Talks are? So, if you don't, it's not a talk about TED. It's just speakers getting up and talking about different subjects. The most viewed TED Talks. What do you think the most viewed TED Talks were? Probably the people with the best content, right? Nope. Must be the best looking people. Most attractive people, right? Nope. The most viewed TED Talks. What were they? Must be the most famous people. Nope. The most viewed TED Talks were the ones where people use the most hand gestures. Now, is that crazy? Now, don't run around and do this with people and like do jazzy hands. That's just gonna freak people out. But the most viewed TED Talks, there was an average of 697 hand gestures, and the least view, there was an average of 145. That's how primal our brain is, guys. It's like, are you hiding something? Are you hiding a rock? Are you hiding a spear? What are you hiding from me? So one of the things that I found that's powerful, and we used to call this energy, and so it used to be woo-woo. Once upon a time, I was like, I feel somebody's energy. Now it's science, the science of mirror neurons. A mirror neuron is something that we all possess inside of us that picks up on when other people are doing things. Let's face it, when somebody's in a great mood and you can just feel it, right? They're showing it, their face is showing it, their body's showing it. When they have something good that they're thinking in their mind, you can feel that, can't you? And the same thing's true if you're not. How many of you have went out in the world and went, oh my gosh, I gotta recruit this person into my business. I gotta do it, but I'm scared, I'm gonna be the sleazy salesperson, and I'm gonna turn them off, and I'm gonna create problems. How many of you have ever done that? And when you do that, they feel it, don't they? Like, you know what that feels like. Those are called mirror neurons. And one of the most impactful things we can do is to look for the good in people. And when I say look for the good, I mean look way beyond their physical. Like, look beyond what they're wearing, look beyond their smile, their face, their eyes, and look down deep. And look at what's amazing with somebody. What's amazing about them? What's incredible about them? In fact, look around the room. Look at your neighbor right now and see if you can find something amazing about them beyond just their appearance. Go ahead, do it. Go ahead, look at that person. See if you can find somebody behind you. What's good about them? What's amazing about them? Look for the good. What can you see? What's good about somebody? And look across the room and see if you can see somebody and look for the good in them. See if you can find some real value in them. Like, really looking for the good, the value. Now that seems pretty simple, doesn't it? Here's what I know, guys. You can't influence the people you judge. You just can't. And our brain wants to really bad. Now, here's the other thing that I know all successful people practice. The people with time freedom, how many of you want time freedom? Oh, come on, how many of you want time freedom? How many of you want money freedom? How many of you want relationship freedom? You're like, I don't know, what does that actually mean? Does that mean like free from the person, like they go away? There's one way to get freedom, and it's through discipline. I know all successful people think discipline equals freedom. Now, here's the problem. We have this subconscious program that's built into us that says this: I don't know if I like discipline. It feels controlling and restrictive. How many of you feel a little constricted or controlled by discipline? How many of you have ever gone to a Starbucks coffee? I'm curious. Everybody, right? And you look in that casing, and what's in the casings? There's like scones and cookies and lemon bars, and you look in there and your brain says what? Or you say to yourself what? No, you don't. You say, I can't eat that. And your brain goes, oh yeah? Watch me. In fact, I'll have one of each if I really want. But it doesn't want to be controlled. It doesn't want to be told what to do. So we have this subconscious program that says, don't control me. Don't tell me what to do, even from ourselves. We call it the rebel against the cause. So we end up rebelling against the very thing we want in life. How many of you really want to rank up? Like, you're like, I want to rank up in this business. How many of you are prepared to battle that one inside of you that doesn't want to be controlled, the rebel? The one that says, I don't want to talk to those people. Or I don't know if it's a good idea to make those calls right now. Or I'm not sure it's a good idea to work this summer, right? When I open up the refrigerator, I look inside, and my brain starts to negotiate. And I'm like, oh, you deserve to eat whatever you want. And I'm like, no, I need to eat carrots. Brain's like, no, we're not eating carrots. And I'm like, carrots are probably the best thing. And brain's like, you know, your clients will relate to you better if you're heavier. Okay? Gets creative. So be prepared for the rebel to show up very creatively. Like maybe this summer, when some of you go to work and brain's like, yeah, I need to spend time with family. Now, I'm not saying you don't spend time with family, but there's a balance, right? There's a balance. Check these studies out. This is interesting. The average person gets about, let's see, how many do they get? The average person gets one interruption every 8 minutes. How many of you are like, Brandon, you don't live at my house. It's like 5 interruptions every 8 minutes. One interruption every 8 minutes. Now check this out. That's 7 interruptions in an hour, or 50 or 60 a day. Interruptions. How many of you know you get interruptions? If you know it, you're interrupted. Now, check this out. We're just doing math here. The average interruption takes about 5 minutes, right? It's about 4 hours of a day. Now, here's what's interesting. 80% of these have little or no value. Now, think about it. You want time freedom. Look where most of the time's spent. And the rebel welcomes this stuff. It welcomes the interruptions. It welcomes the distractions. So you don't have to follow through with the things you tell yourself to do. Makes sense, right? Brain's clever. It's got this interesting thing figured out. Does all sorts of things to sabotage us. So the distractions and interruptions, most people tell me it's my kids. Who is it? Your spouse? That's the same person earlier that said married was one of their greatest experiences. It's actually ourselves. We welcome these distractions. And it happens all the time, so we don't have to follow through with the things we tell ourselves to do. How many of you have been wanting to be at your ideal weight for years, but you know what's required? Discipline. And you're like, I don't have the time to do that. And I know what happens a lot of times is we underestimate what we can do in 5 years and we overestimate what we can do in 6 months. And that's a big deal. If you don't write that down, write that down. We overestimate what we can do in 5 years and we underestimate what we can do, or vice versa, sorry. We overestimate what we can do in 6 months and we underestimate what we do in 5 years. Imagine what you could achieve in 5 years. Now, how many of you are like, I want it now? I don't want to wait 5 years. I don't even want to wait 6 months. The other thing I see successful, happy, truly wealthy people do is they live in the gray. Now, what do I mean by this? They don't live in black and white thinking. And when I say black and white thinking, the biggest cause of stress in the world today is polarized thinking or black and white thinking. When I say black and white thinking, it's like good, bad, wrong, right, win, lose, all or nothing, perfect or not at all. How many of you know you have this thought process that goes on? How many of you have a need to be right? Now, how many of you don't need to be right? You know you're right. Right? Come on. I'm hearing somebody like preach. They're sitting next to their spouse, I'm sure. Yes, so you need to be right about something. Your ideas become part of your self-worth, and so you get defensive. How many of you get defensive? Or you get offended? Anybody get offended? And if you get defensive or offended, I know this, you're in black and white thinking. Here's a way to test it out. Go home at some point, talk to your significant other or somebody that knows you really well and say, hey, what's it like being in a relationship with me when I need to be right? and let them tell you without getting offended. Let them tell you without going on the defense. Yeah. What's it like being in a relationship with me when I need to be right? So my question to you is, are you defending what you know or learning what you don't? How many of you have leaders that are sitting down here on one of these beautiful couches? Guys, did you hear that? How many of you love these people? How many of you would do anything they told you to do? How many of you would do anything they told you to do when it came to this business? Then why aren't you doing it? Maybe it's because you're stuck in this black and white thinking. It's like, I've heard people go, I don't want to be controlled and told what to do. And then the next minute go, I just wish somebody would tell me what to do. And then they tell you what to do and you don't do it. The rebel, right? And this part that goes into this defensive place. And we'll even make excuses about why we're doing what we're doing, right? So we'll say, hey, I'm not going to do this, and it's because I don't have the time. And somebody will go, let's try and find out where we can find you some time. And you're like, there's no use. I have no time. Like, there's no time. We can't find it. And they're like, let's look for it. And they're like, what do you do when you first wake up? And you're like, I'm busy. I'm busy. And they're like, what do you do? Let's hear what happens when you first wake up. And they're like, I don't know. I get up and I wander around the house for 15 or 20 minutes. And and I'm like, you're like, but I'm busy. And I'm like, how are you busy? What happens about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock? And you're like, well, I got to be on alert for my phone to go off. And so I go and check text messages to see if somebody's notified me. And I go on Facebook or social media or Instagram and it's like 2 o'clock and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't achieved much. But you will defend how busy you are. How many of you do this? Brain, right? Get stuck in black and white thinking. Now, I know we can't do anything without the right motivation. We have to have the right motivation. So I'm not going to necessarily sit here and be a motivational speaker for you, but what I'd like to do is find out how you motivate yourself. So let's talk. How many of you know you need to talk about motivation? Right? We just got to talk about it. So let's find out. Let's find out how you're motivated. Because I know really successful people are motivated a certain way, and then I know there's sabotage that shows up for a lot of us. So some people are motivated by an obligation or a perfection or a fear. And you'll know if you're obligated by this because you say things like, I have to, I should, I need to, I must, I'm supposed to. How many of you have some of these obligations in life? And you're motivated by them. I gotta do it. I gotta do it. I gotta do it. You might even leave here and go, I gotta do it. I gotta do this thing. I have to do it. Let's find out what happens when you're motivated by obligation, fear, or even perfection. You get tired. It creates fatigue. Right? You get exhausted. How many of you have kids? Those selfish little kids. How come you're giving them such big cheers? Kids are selfish, aren't they? Those selfish little kids. I have 4 boys. I love them. They're the love of my life, but they are selfish. I've watched my kids numerous times just have all the energy in the world. And then the minute they have to do something, they're exhausted. Right? It's like, I'll never forget this one day they were like playing darts with, I don't even know, like Nerf gun wars or whatever. And I saw my son jump off the back of the couch and do like a commando roll and like start shooting his brothers with this Nerf gun. And he's got all this energy. And then Michelle, my wife, walks down the stairs and she goes, guys, we gotta go get your rooms cleaned up because we gotta get going. We're headed off to, I don't know where we're headed. And all of a sudden he laid on the floor and went, I don't feel so good. This is the kid 3 minutes ago that launched off the back of the couch. So we're gonna get tired if we're obligated. And then what happens is the rebel shows up. Here's where we go, nope, not doing it. And so we avoid or quit or stop or procrastinate. But guys, what happens if you procrastinate or you stop or you quit? What's the feeling you have inside? Guilt, right? You feel guilty. I didn't do this thing. How many of you know there's things you need to do in your business and you don't do them and then you feel guilty? And so here's what Brain does. It's really creative. It says, let's do it tomorrow, right? We'll start the diet tomorrow. We'll start making those phone calls tomorrow. We'll start our business Monday. What's Monday? Monday's like this magic day, and then Monday rolls around and what happens? So we recommit and do what we have to, must, and should until the cycle continues. How many of you have been in this cycle for days in your business? How many weeks? How about months? How many? It's been years. Recommitting, recommitting, recommitting. There's a different way, and here's the way. To do things because you want to, get to, and choose to. Now, this isn't about just having positive affirmations or positive self-talk, guys, because if I open up the refrigerator and I go, yay, I get to eat carrots, my brain doesn't go, I'm on board. My brain goes, shut up. That's not happening. But how about I want to because? Write that down. I want to because. Why do you want to run this business? Why do you want to do some of these activities that feel like you have to, must, and should? Because when it's a want to, look what happens. You get energy. You're not tired. You get excited. And then you're not rebelling against anything. You're on board. You're embracing it. So then you're just in action. And when you're in action, you don't feel guilty. You're actually in freedom. And then you don't have to recommit to do anything. You're just committed. How many of you would like to be motivated by that? Get to, want to, choose to. I want to because. I remember, I've never seen this in more full effect than a few years ago. My wife loves to shop. Actually, my wife loves to buy too. She likes to shop and buy. And so one year for her birthday, I got her this trip to LA to do all this back alley shopping. Like, I'm sure you guys have back alley shopping here, right? But in LA, I got her this birthday present to go back alley shopping in LA, and I was gonna go with her, because she's always trying to get me to go with her. So I'm like, I'm gonna go with you, we're gonna go shopping. And we get to LA, and we check in this beautiful hotel, and we eat something, and I think Michelle gets shrimp, and she gets sick. So this is her birthday trip, right? She's sick, and all night long she's sick. I could hear her in the bathroom all night. I'm like, oh, this is such a bummer. Like, her shopping trip is like totally gone. She ate bad shrimp and she's sick, and she is in the toilet all night long. And it's about 8 a.m. I look at my watch, or I look at the alarm clock. It's about 8 a.m. and I can hear her rumbling around in the bathroom being sick. And she comes out fully dressed. And I'm like, where are we going? Like the Instacare? Like, where are we headed? And she's like, shopping. I'm like, shopping? Like, you're sick. And she goes, oh, I know. I go, but we're just sick. And she goes, I know. We're going shopping. I watched this woman shop all day long. Stop and throw up in garbage cans. And shop. Want to or I have to? Look what want to. Look at the motivation there. Because here's what's interesting. By the next day, she felt better. By Sunday, she was great. She was fine. We flew home. Monday, she called in sick for work. Right? So I know the power of want to. Here's what I also know. And if you guys hear nothing else this entire time, listen to this, because this is powerful. Successful, happy, wealthy, fulfilled people happily achieve. They don't achieve to be happy. Let me repeat that. This is big. They happily achieve. Some of us are overachievers. I'm one of them. And I have this thing, and we all have this thing in our brain that's called the vivid visionary. And the vivid visionary likes to create a blueprint for life. It likes to create what it thinks life should look like. So if we were to create your dream home right now, and I said, let's all visualize your dream home, you would visualize the perfect dream home. If I said visualize your vacation, your ideal vacation, you would visualize the ideal vacation. Because brain doesn't know the difference, subconscious, between perfection and reality. So if we envisioned your perfect ideal vacation, it's gonna look pretty awesome. In fact, your kids are gonna go on this vacation and have the time of their life, are they not? There's gonna be no plane delays, there's gonna be no problems with your rooms, there's gonna be no ghosts that live in the hotel, right? Those of you staying in the Biltmore, right? So there'll be no issues, no problems. You create the perfect scenario. In fact, how does this look familiar to anybody? How many of you have a vision board or a goal poster? Yeah. And how much of the stuff on there is perfect? Like, how many of you have ever taken a vacation where your kids and your whole family are walking down the beach holding hands and things are just awesome? And look, pressed white shirts, right? Like, this isn't real. It's not real. But we create it in our brains. I watched a family do pictures. It's about a month ago. We were in Hawaii at a beach, and I was watching this family do pictures, and they had white pressed shirts for about 5 minutes. And then I watched this little boy walk up to his sister with a handful of sand and just rub it in her hair, right? And rub it all over her shirt. And the mom freaked out. And I remember the dad sitting there going, hey, it's okay, it's just pictures. And she's like freaking out. She created a vision of what those pictures were gonna look like. And anything that fell short of it is what we call an amygdala hijack. There's a part of your brain that creates fight, flight, or freeze. And what happens is it hijacks that prefrontal cortex, you know, the part of your brain that problem solves and thinks rationally. The part of us that wasn't online for the last 2 years, the part of us that was not rationally thinking because there was chaos everywhere. So we went into this place called the amygdala hijack. That woman, the mother, went into an amygdala hijack. Her amygdala kicked into gear and said, fight, flight, or freeze. Something doesn't look like it's supposed to. We're in trouble. How many of you create the ideal vision of how your business is supposed to look? And then you go out in the world and reality happens. And you get freaked out. You're like, this isn't supposed to happen. Are you focused on the stuff you can't control or the stuff you can? Because we can influence a lot, but guys, there's a lot of stuff we can't control. And if we spend too much time visualizing just the outcome, I'm not saying don't have dreams. I'm not saying don't have goals. Have them. Just don't spend so much time being attached to them. Because the more attached you get to them, the more we think they're part of who we are. And then if anything slides in that looks like reality, which is imperfect, we'll get frustrated. Does this make sense? Think about it. How many of you have ever been on it's like you've been in paradise. You've been in the ideal vacation and it hasn't gone right. In fact, right now, you are in paradise. But I want you to think about 3 things you've criticized over the last 2 days. Come on. You can even find something right now in this room that you could be critical of. You're like, I'm critical of your jacket. I'm critical of your pants. I'm critical of, I don't know, what can you be critical of? Let's hear it. Be critical of, what have you been critical of over the last 3 days or 2 days? Man, listen to you guys. Listen to you guys. You could be critical, huh? That's interesting. You're in paradise. How can you be so critical? Expectations. You created expectations. And unrealistic ones at that. So we can be in the most beautiful place in the world. We can be in paradise and be suffering. Look at this business you're in. Isn't it beautiful? But you're critical. It's brain. It's brain. It's finding things to criticize because it has expectations, because most of us live by this formula. You could actually call this the success formula. And it says, when my life conditions equal my expectations, I will finally be happy. What's the problem with this, guys? The minute your expectations are met, let's just say you run around and do everything you can to meet your expectations. The minute your expectations are met, what do? You raise them. So it's never, ever, ever good enough. And you're like, that's right. That's how I live my standard. That's my standard of life. Never good enough. So we're never successful, or we're never happy. And we keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Here's the key. Replace your expectations with appreciations. Gratitude. Now, how many of you practice gratitude? Like, you have an art of gratitude that you actually practice, something you do day to day. Because look, check this out. This is done by the people in HeartMath. HeartMath, they study the heart and the brain. And this is an EEG and an EKG. So look at this top graph. The red bar is an EKG, and the blue bar is an EEG. So brain, studying brain, and heart. Look what happens when somebody's in frustration. Their heart and their brain are actually off. Do you think that's going to impact somebody's mirror neurons when you're interacting with them? If your heart and your brain aren't together, have you ever felt that? You felt it. I know you felt it inside, but you felt it from somebody else. You're like, I don't know what's going on with that person, but something's off. It's probably this. I know I've been in this space. I've been in this space. In the last few days, I've even been in this space a couple of times. It's because brain wants that formula. I need to create those expectations in order to be happy. But look what happens when we're in appreciation. That's the bottom bar. Our heart and our brains actually work together in harmony. Another place of flow. So, how would you guys like to learn a practice of gratitude? Up-leveled like no other. And how many of you are willing to do it right now? You up for it? So do me a favor. Close your eyes. Close your eyes and put both of your hands over your heart. Now, brain's going, I'm not going to do this stupid thing. Starting to negotiate, right? Notice it, negotiate. Notice it, negotiate, yeah? What if somebody sees me doing this? I'm not going to do this thing. Tell brain, get on board. We need you on board for this. Both hands over your heart. And I want you to breathe into your heart and just feel the gratitude for your heart. Notice that it beats every day. And every day it beats, you're alive. And every day you're alive, you can bring gratitude. You can bring life to other people. Thank your heart. In fact, underneath your breast, say, thank you, I love you. Thank you, I love you. Think about a moment in your life, a moment at any age. Just pick a moment that you could have gratitude for. Find that moment and step into that moment as if that moment was actually happening right now. Step into it and feel it. Feel the gratitude for that moment. Just feel it. Experience it.
I could put my Bantam trophy from football.
What did you see? What did you feel in that moment? What did you hear?
Get some of this tape right here, right now.
Just any moment, any old moment. Pick a moment. Find gratitude for it. It was a blessing, wasn't it? Isn't that moment beautiful? Underneath your breath, just say thank you. Thank you, I love you. Find another moment. Find a second moment of gratitude, a moment at any age. And put yourself in that moment. A second moment of gratitude. Find the gratitude in that moment. And step into that moment as if it were happening right now. Notice if brain gets in the way and tries to negotiate. Just stay in that moment and see what you saw, hear what you heard, feel what you felt in that moment as if it were happening.
Should I do like
right
a
now.
bad marker, like a marker that doesn't work?
Feel the gratitude. Soak it up.
Is this can bend more?
Underneath your breath.
Oh, dude, it smells so
Say
good.
thank you.
It smells like
Is
home.
that live?
I don't know. What
Find
is
the
it?
third moment.
It's
A
my
third
dad.
Moment, maybe a moment you could be proud
I was gonna say, yeah, that was
Where
in
is he?
What's a moment
2022.
in your life you were really proud of yourself for something? It was beautiful. It was a beautiful moment. Step into that moment as if it were happening right now.
Best
And
GF.
feel the gratitude for that moment.
It smells like bananas.
See it. Feel it.
Wait, I want to.
What is that marker? It's like
It
It
bananas.
smells good.
It's like bananas.
Banana. It smells like the banana taffy. That's
Look
perfect.
how proud of yourself you were.
Mom.
In fact, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to reach out and think about any moments that you're proud of yourself and bring them into your heart. Reach out and grab them and bring them into your heart. Moments that you could, you were so proud of yourself. Moments when you were younger, 5 years old, 6 years old, 10 years old. Any moments of your life you're proud of yourself, reach out and grab them and bring them into your heart.
Is she gonna be mad?
Well, you didn't give her a real gift.
And every time you bring them in, just say yes, yes.
Wait.
And underneath your breath, say thank you.
What'd she think?
I love you.
She hit me off.
Actually?
Yeah. What'd she say though?
Now open up your eyes and look at the person next to you and say, good job.
Like that maybe?
Well done.
Yo.
That's gratitude.
I wanna wrap them all up.
Now, remember those things you were critical of? Find something to appreciate about the very thing you were critical of.
This?
What can you appreciate about the very thing you were critical of over the last 3 days?
Okay.
Appreciate it.
And then put it inside of one of those.
You're like, oh, it's so hot. Oh my gosh, I love the sun giving me all that vitamin D.
Dylan, let's go. We out.
To Costa Vieira with our boys.
Find the thing you're grateful for and soak it up.
And then put it in here.
When you can trade expectations for appreciations, guys, your whole world changes.
Vamos.
Okay?
With that.
And you're in a beautiful company with beautiful people,
Put that one in.
beautiful, beautiful setting. One of the things I forgot to do when I first came out here is thank this team for having me come out and speak to you guys. I mean, you guys have an amazing team. Yes. Shelly Sullivan, is she awesome?
Is there, I think there's a smaller one.
Wait, oh yeah.
So Shelly, thank you, wherever you're at. And you guys have a
I
great,
guess you'll never
great
know
week.
because
Now,
it's all typed up.
one more thing, couple of other things I want to share with you that really successful people do. They practice this thing called the platinum rule. And the platinum rule, we'll make it come up here in a minute. Does that mean my time's up? If I can't make it, switch. Like, sorry, time's up. There we go. The platinum rule. Treat yourself the way you want others to treat you. And you go, yeah, I know, I gotta treat myself better. Listen, guys, you were only born with 2 fears. Some of you that have worked with me know this. 2 fears, loud noises and the fear of falling. What if those were your only two fears today? What could you go do? But here's what I know. At about 9 years old, our self-esteem takes a nosedive. And we have two new fears: being enough and being loved. So we run around doing everything we can to be enough. What if our only two fears were loud noises and the fear of falling? And you could get over the fear of falling. You just have skydive.
It's alright. Put my show on.
So listen, how many of you want to make a massive impact in the world? Let me ask you again. But you failed to make a massive impact on your community first. How many of you want to make a massive impact in your community? But you failed to make a massive impact on your team. How many of you want to make a massive impact on your team? But you haven't made a big impact on your inner circle. How many of you want to make a massive... Uh-oh. What happened? There we go. They're like, your time's up, dude. Inner circle. How many of you want to make a big impact on your inner circle, but you haven't made a big impact on your family yet? So to make a big impact on all of these things, who does it start with, guys? You gotta start making that impact on you. So here's what I'd like to do. I know one of the biggest challenges beauty influencers face every day is creating the right mindset and a confident mindset and supportive habits. Listen, guys, bad habits have more traction than good intentions. You can have the best intentions in the world, and if your habits aren't great, it's gonna create issues. So habits have way more attraction than good intentions, a good attitude. A positive attitude is only gonna get you so far. So we know creating supportive habits is critical, because you go back home and you get stuck into old routines. We call them your old emotional home. Some of you need to move out of your home emotionally, mentally. So here's what I'd like to do. To make any change stick, neural pathways in our brain, to make neural pathways change, we need three things. And they're not sexy. Repetition. How many of you are like, I love repetition. I love doing the same thing over and over again. How many of you loved the last 2 years doing the same thing over and over again, not getting results? That sucks, right? But it's repetition. And we repeat the same thing over and over again, we get the same results. So in order to make a change, we have to have repetition, using the right tools and skills, and then have somebody hold us accountable to do that. So here's what we're gonna do. And you can thank Shelly for this one. We're gonna spend 5 days with you. We've created a thing called the Pharmacy 5-Day Rank Up Challenge. So how many of you would like 5 days to go deeper into what I've done today? Like I just went, okay, let me give you a chance to clap without talking. My wife's like, slow down, slow down. I'm excited about this. I'm excited about the 5-Day Rank Up Challenge because it's gonna give you guys an hour each day to, number one, get more of this material and go deeper. And then we're gonna give you actually spreadsheets, not spreadsheets, we're gonna give you PDFs. You guys don't want spreadsheets. PDFs to work on every day so you build upon these things every day. So by 5 days, you've got the accountability, you've got the right tools and exercises, and you've got the repetition to change some of the neural pathways in your brain. So how much would something like this cost you guys? 5 days to spend intense coaching with us. I think it's gotta be like at least $500, right? So here's what we're gonna do. Go back one slide. We're gonna do it for $27. Guys, grab your teams, come take part in this. I promise you, we're gonna bring it over 5 days. It's gonna be a game changer. Now here's the thing, $27, it ends on Saturday at midnight. So it gives you time to do it here. And look at this special guest we're gonna have. How many of you are a fan of this woman? Where is she? Is she in here? There she is. Hey. Melissa Brooks is gonna join us, right? She's a rock star, right? So she's gonna join us on one of those days, but we're gonna dig deeper. 5 days, digging deeper into creating those confident mindset tools and supportive habits. So I'll put this big, I don't even know what you call this, a QR code, right? I'll put this QR code up here so you guys can take a picture of it. You also can find Michelle and I out there if you want to come talk to us, and we've got a little postcard we could give you. But take a picture of this, because Saturday at midnight, this all goes up in a lot higher in price. And those of you that are joining us virtual, you get to take advantage of this. Yes, a couple of people thought they were virtual for a minute. Listen, it's been my pleasure. I want to thank Pharmacy. You guys have an amazing company. I want to thank you guys. In fact, do me a favor. One of my favorite sayings is success is a conscious choice. Pick your right hand up. It's this one. And wrap it around and pat yourself on the back and say, good choice for coming to convention. Pat the person's back next to you and say, good choice for coming to convention. Pat the person's back in front of you and say, good choice for coming to convention. Guys, it's been my absolute pleasure. We love you. Come talk to us. Come take care of us. Come see us. Let us take care of you. We'll see you soon.